Welcome back to Box 2 in partnership with Best Western Hotels GB. We're rolling out their free breakfast campaign in 2025. For more information, visit bestwestern.co.uk/free breakfast. Terms and conditions obviously apply. Now, I'm Jamie Jones-Buchanan, and I'm joined by a former teammate of mine, the prodigal son, Kallum Watkins, walking back through the gates of Headingley AMT Stadium for the first time in about 6 years. And I imagine, Kallum, there's all kinds of emotional threads that maybe go back 10 years. Tell me, how does it feel to be back as a Rhinos player?
Yeah, it's great to be back, mate, and obviously seeing you around again. It's obviously great to see you and catch up with a lot of people. And then obviously just this morning, went in at Kirkstall this morning. Obviously, I think it was a bit of a strange feeling. Probably got that same with Brian Hall as well. And but going in, I just felt like nothing's kind of changed from that. And yeah, really, really happy to be here and looking forward to obviously playing.
All has been amazing. Coming back, he's had a massive reception, as you can imagine. And there's a lot of nostalgia just reflecting. And there's a lot of Leeds fans that have come into the fold, hasn't there, in the last 5 or 6 years. I spoke to two young lads who were about 23 at Ash Hanley's testimonial event in the week. And maybe perhaps, they might be watching this and might not be able to remember or reminisce on what happened 10 years ago, but those threads that go back, what are some of the feelings when you left here in 2019? I imagine perhaps that you'd never thought you'd be wearing the Leeds Rhinos kit again. Was there ever a time when you was thinking, I'd love to go back to Rhinos, or you miss being a part of it?
To be fair, I didn't really think about it through the time, but I remember when I left, I did an interview just before I left, and I kept getting asked, but would I come back? And I'd always say never, because this club's built up such a massive history, and I've obviously been a part of that for a very long time. So I'll always have love and the emotion towards Leeds. Of course, they've built me into a man and obviously a family man as well. So it's they were major key in terms of learning from the likes of you and plenty of other guys that were here, and you could name quite a lot, of course. And look, it you have to go through certain things, and it's plenty of ups and downs. I've had plenty of ups and downs when I've left Leeds, and plenty of learnings from that, and I've become a better person, and obviously learned a lot of life lessons through that. And yeah, it's just it's a full circle back here now. And like I said early on before. Never say never. Obviously getting the opportunity to come here, I'm truly grateful for Bleasy, and obviously Brad Arthur for giving me the opportunity as well.
Just pull out some of the threads there, Kallum, around talking about being a dad and some of the experiences that you would have had in the last 5 or 6 years, which would have evolved Kallum Watkins. I remember when Ryan Hall sat there and he was talking about Trent Robinson and his time at the Sydney Roosters. He spoke about bringing in almost this like philosophical, spiritual element to him, which is completely the opposite end of the Ryan Hall personality. How have you changed and evolved in this last 5 or 6 years?
Things have changed in terms of going into different environments. I think when I went to the Gold Coast, obviously we were at the time when I was at Leeds, it wasn't at its best moment. We were struggling in terms of the playing side of it, but I went to the Gold Coast and they were probably in the worst position. But at the same time, I really enjoyed my time there because it just gave me another experience of being part of a new group, a group that were struggling at the time, but trying to climb themselves back up as well. So I really enjoyed my time there, and obviously bringing the family and stuff over, it's again a change of climate, different challenges with that. The kids are growing fast, and they've had to adapt as well. So it's terms of learning from going to different places, and obviously working as hard as you can as a player, but then also making sure that we're good at home as well. So and that's always been something that I've always wanted to improve on. I had children in my early 20s, so I had to grow up pretty quickly through that, and I've had plenty of learnings. And look, the Gold Coast was absolutely amazing. It's probably one of the best places you can live, and the family did enjoy it. But again, COVID hit, And yeah, it made a massive impact on, obviously, on my family life. My dad got quite ill from it, so I had to make a decision to come back, and we felt it was the right thing for us to do. And at the time, I broke up from my marriage as well, so things were going on pretty deep at the same time, and especially with COVID as well, having to come back. And I went into a situation where I signed for Toronto because Brian Matt was there, and we had a good conversation with that to jump on, and didn't realise that obviously the impact of COVID, it's made an impact on what happened at Toronto, where I remember I signed, and then a few days later I was speaking to Brad Singleton because he was there at the time, and he was saying that we weren't getting paid, and
wow.
you know, it was always kind of another thing that was added on to the thing. So yeah, we went quite through a bit, the family and myself, but I felt in terms of stuff that's happened here and injuries and all sorts of stuff, there's always ups and downs, and it's how you respond to it. And I felt it was all coming at once. So, you know, I've probably hit the bottom of there, and then obviously it got to a point where you had to pick yourself back up now.
Sure.
And I think it helped through the COVID, strangely enough, because it gave me a lot of time to reflect. I had a lot of time to myself, and I had to reflect on things and made some little goals and where I wanted to be in the next 5 years. And, you know, for me, it was about getting that love back for the game, enjoying it, and just embracing each challenge that what comes. And again, it came with more challenges. And obviously I signed at Salford at the time, and Bleezers was there, and he gave me an opportunity to go there, which I was always grateful for. And I got an emotional attachment to Salford because I grew up as a kid watching them. So
of course, yeah.
I was a ball boy there as well. So I had to obviously bring that. It made a decision pretty easy to go there and see where it went from there. And they had their challenges themselves. So look, it's a lot of things we can obviously delve into. And like I say, it all came in at once. The things that can knock you down, and you know, it could keep you down there as well. But I always thought I was mentally strong in terms of getting through that. And again, I went through another situation where I did my ACL again while I was at Salford, and I thought I had an inkling for probably a couple of minutes thinking about finishing playing. I think I was about just over 30 at the time. So at that moment, I thought, you know, will I stop playing? I think I'm thinking about stop playing, but then I cut it straight off, and I thought, nah, I'm not done. I'm not done yet. I'm quite stubborn in that way. I always think that, you know, I want to play as best as I can. I want to be in the best position mentally, and I felt that was another challenge that was just thrown at me. So say, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to, you know, let it beat me, really. Let them things that can really knock you down in life beat you. And I always thought after that, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to set little goals, make sure I got back. I was out for the full year pretty much. I was out for 11 months through that because I did my MCL and my ACL, and then ACL as well. So I had to get that rehabbed, then do the ACL. So it was good 11 months before I got back playing. So, and then you always think that things will come up. Some luck can come up at sometimes, and I think another goal was set with going to the World Cup, and it got delayed. I remember it got delayed because of COVID, so it pushed it back a year. So it was another incentive for me to get back playing and being in the best position. And you know, that following year I got back playing. It was an amazing year, really, and I managed to get into the World Cup squad. So it was something that I'm really proud of.
So there's a lot in there to unpack, and I guess what we're talking about is lived experience, that prior wall of evidence that you can bring back to the Leeds Rhinos. And it's interesting because I'm listening to you, and I guess when I was playing, you were sort of the age, maybe a bit younger than likes of Ash Hanley, Cam Smith, who are leaders now. You've come back having had all these different experiences around the world of rugby league as a professional. I've got a LinkedIn clip that I might play a few little bits in, and it breaks down some of your mental attitudes towards your application to life, which I think really educational. You come back then, perhaps as a counsellor, a teacher, a mentor, a coach in many different ways, and a wealth of experience beyond just what you do with the ball in your footwork on a playing field on a Friday night, but it's the other 10,000 minutes that happened from a Monday to a Sunday, right? And that influence. So when you come back then, Cal, and you look at likes of Ash Hanley, Cam Smith, teaming back up with Ryan Hall, what do you think you can bring to the Leeds Rhinos beyond just the skill of playing rugby league?
Just obviously just giving people advice. People go through situations, especially off the field. I think I could give a lot of advice off the field because I've been through a lot, and many people have. And for me, it's just about being an open book, really, being able to let players be comfortable to come and talk to me about anything. I've been through some tough situations mentally, and managed to get out the other side and help people along the way as well. So again, it's like, you know what, obviously with Ash and Cam, obviously while we were playing back then, they were quite young, obviously, and they've developed into men and leaders, which is great to see. But they've showed early on that their potential and what they shown through them tough times, and learning from like the guys, myself and yourself, a lot of the other experienced guys. Obviously, they then went through a difficult and transitional period. So they managed to stick together and managed to get through that and become better for that. And it shows with the coach giving them both the co-captaincies. It's incredible to see. It kind of makes me really proud to see that, and obviously being able to then go back and play with these guys, and I'll help them as much as possible. I think for me, I'm not always the biggest talker. Probably talk much too much now than I do outside, off the field. But look, I'll give them as much advice and help as well. But I've always got to lead by example, and I think it's through your actions.
Love that. Leading by example, through your actions. It's what you do. Love is a verb. It's doing. And we can see what people do brings people together. I think you said that as well, sticking together, being together. That's what brings about leadership, camaraderie, connection for me. And you mentioned that word love there. In those LinkedIn clips, when you're talking about what keeps you going, how you overcome some challenges, you're talking about you've got to love the game. You've got to be passionate about it. You're bringing some emotion into it. And I think anybody who plays rugby league for any length of time or works in rugby league, you love it because it's hard. It's simple quite often, but it's hard as well. So you've got to love it. You've got to be passionate about it. So tell us, bring us into that emotion. What does loving rugby league look like for you? What's it felt like on your journey?
I just think, obviously, it's been a lot of challenges. And rugby league, you can resonate a lot of rugby league with life, I think, and it'll set you challenges mentally, physically. And for me, it's always about making the hard choices. Yeah, it's always making the hard choices, and they always seem to be the best choices for you. As hard as it is, but that love of the game pushes you to do that. And I think if you want to succeed in something that you love doing, you've got to go through them hard choices that you have with yourself, especially in your mind, especially while you're playing and you're tired and you made a ton of tackles. And I've learned quite a lot playing in the back row now. You make a lot of tackles, so it challenges you from there. But that little thing in your brain that's telling you not to do it, you're battling with that as well to push through. But like I say, the love and the passion for the game, if you bring that towards how you prepare, how you play, what you do with your teammates as well, how you bring them up, making teammates better, that makes them harder choices a little bit easier for you.
I love you saying that, because I always talk to people about getting out of comfort zone because it's uncomfortable, right? It's painful, it's anxiety producing, but I completely agree. That's the only space in which I've found people grow. So whilst it never feels great, right, people try and avoid it, but actually when you're avoiding it, you're not growing. Sort of step into it is where you grow exponentially. And I think where the courage to be able to do that comes from is knowing that you've got teammates there outside you to pick you up. And I'll talk a bit about another former centre who played for both Salford and Leeds in Joel Moon. I had a bit of a joke about him coming back for the Hall of Fame, and I can't wait to see him. But I remember as a back rower, you mentioned you've got that experience now playing back row. You do a lot of tackles, you get through a fair bit of work, and he'd never said a word He didn't speak a lot. He spoke less than I think Carl Ablett, but he'd swap with you. He'd batter a few. One of the best defenders I ever played with. And then he'd go back out. Just that action is what brought about my connection to him and my appreciation and love for him. He was brilliant. So then when Moon and his mate would rack it up and he played for 6 for a while, it was amazing money. Jonesy carry that ball there on that blade of grass, boom, you do it as hard as you could. But you're absolutely right. Discomfort is a key part of growth. So then you mentioned mental strength as well. So resilience, specifically talk about what that looks like. When you've got to make those mentally tough decisions, what does that look and feel like?
Like I say, when everything's thrown at you, the challenges are thrown at you. And it's within yourself as well. You've got to look within yourself.
Yeah.
Them are choices that get presented to you. You've got to be able to go through them and you've got to be able to push forward through that instead of standing still.
Yes.
Instead of standing still. And I think the big thing for me is, I think when I was younger, I probably learned from you guys through adversity. You didn't just stay still. You push forward and within your actions and what you did when you was playing, even in your preparation, things just picked up a notch. Things always picked up a notch. And I think learning from experiences from different players, look, everyone's got different personalities and it's how you treat the people around you as well. That will make a big difference as a group as well. But in terms of being mentally strong, you can throw everything and a load of challenges onto people. It's how people respond to that. And that's through your actions. And that shows a big indicator. Like you say, with Mooney, he wasn't the biggest talker, but his actions talked for him, you know. Yep. And for me, I'm quite similar in that sense. It's always been about actions, making sure you're doing the right thing. Yeah, when not many people want to do that, but if you do that, it's within yourself. You're happy within yourself that you've done that and you can push through that. And obviously when you mentioned about the discomfort, you know, obviously it's been pretty uncomfortable the last few months while I've been at Salford. And you get them feelings of discomfort, anxiety and everything, and the whole group's going through that as well. So having to have a lot of conversations with them. There've been a lot of phone calls over the last few weeks and few months. So being able to help people push through that, I think that's another step that has helped my leadership in a sense.
It's amazing listening to you reflect on your experience with Salford, because that opportunity to practice resilience and that emotional intelligence we're talking about there would have come in abundance this year, 2025, with that journey with Salford. I don't want to get into the politics of it, the irony, the dichotomy is, as I've heard, Salford are one of the best teams in the league when it comes to not losing a lot of money. So if you was to have a table there, it's probably an 8 top of it. But the irony is, the way they've been quite frugal over years and punched above the weight is because of the way that they operate. But that must mean then that there's a narrative on the field where you've got to make lads believe against the odds that we're going to come up with a win. And that almost became their identity, didn't it? So I imagine lifting some of that and bringing it with you in any walk of life is going to be quite advantageous.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Salford have always had that underdog mentality. I feel like for me, at the start of my career, didn't really have that. Didn't have that underdog kind of mentality. We were put in situations where we didn't have the best of years, or you know, we didn't start well. We started well, or we didn't do well in the middle. But at the end, we knew when to turn up. And I think for me, it was the big learning curve was developing that kind of underdog mentality mindset and getting some belief in the guys. But we had a good group as well, I think. And it is sad because the group was great in terms of that mentality, that underdog mentality, and making sure that it doesn't matter about the external noise. It doesn't matter about the external noise, what's within. And I think with them situations that have happened over the last few months, it has been ongoing for a while. But I guess the guys have tried to stick together as much as possible. But it's got to a point where people have had to make decisions for themselves and family. And it's obviously sad that I was grateful for the opportunity to play there. There's no doubt about it. But then given an opportunity to come here was something I had to take, and I'm glad I've done that.
Brad Arthur's brought some big gains. I believe you can see it philosophically, and even the way that they apply themselves at the minute. Leeds Rhinos have had some big games, performed really well, and you feel like it's on the precipice. And I'm just listening to you there. I imagine being in a storm, but having that ability to have the presence of mind, the temperance to get everybody into the middle of it where it's calm. And even though you might be, I don't know, there's 3 minutes to go, there's pins and needles running through your legs, you can't see, right, your head's all over the place, you can feel the heartbeat booming in your ears there, and you know there's an expectation from the crowd, but being able to defend your line for a minute and a half, right, somebody makes another error, penalty, 6 again, but to have that calmness and instruction and look at each other in the eye and go, we've got this, it's fine, because we've been here a million times, we're conditioned to doing it, is what might tip, I think, and having you back there, Leeds Rhinos back over that other side, which is, I think, is amazing. You talk also about controlling the controllables. So rather than try to move the ocean, just learn how to ride the waves and keep everybody safe and on the board, on the boat.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? Being in control and just only worrying, not worrying about what's on the outside, but just worrying about what's on the inside, the people that can make a difference.
Well, I think obviously while I've been at Salford, that situation there, we've been tested in terms of that. Well, what we can control.
Yeah.
Look, we've asked questions, what's going on here and there and the other. We're not getting the answers. Can't control that.
Yeah.
But what we can control is what we produce on the field and what we produce together as a team. And I think that's the most important thing. And that can be hard to gather people's head around, because there's all sorts of things that are going off, outside of the field. So, but I felt like at the time, I think Salford dealt with that. The group dealt with that really well, as best as they could, really. And I think that's, again, give me another learning tick in terms of being able to stay calm in them situations and control what you can control, how you prepare, how you sleep, just everything that you can be in control of. All the external noises, everything that pops out. Look, you can't control everything. So I think for me, it's always been about making sure that I'm right within myself. So that gives me an advantage and help others become better as well. So everyone's got to be on the same board, on the same boat, and making sure that they're doing everything that they can and what they can control as well, because everyone goes through certain things at different times. So they've got to be able to find their best way, because it might not be the same way as me. Yes. It might not be the same way as you. It's going to be different, but what works for them, and it makes them feel in a much better space, better place, mentally and physically, so they can produce the best performance out on the field.
I love that. How you're looking at people and saying, actually, what works for me might be different for you. Yeah. So we live in a world where people make a lot of assumptions, right, and have a lot of opinions, and that's one of the weaknesses, I believe, in rugby league. I think it's a family, because we're close, but we're too close, too familiar. Make a lot of assumptions, right, and fill gaps in knowledge with just conjecture. Just fill it with almost sometimes nonsense, when actually we should be a little bit more curious and ask more questions. Yeah. Find out how other people are feeling and going, how can I help you, which is brilliant. So let's flip that round, and this is completely organic, by the way, so these are quite hard questions. We're getting deep here. Getting deep. But we're going there, let's keep digging, see how far we can get before we fall over. From an outsider looking in then, so you're outside the Leeds Rhinos looking into the bubble, what have you seen? There's always an expectation around Leeds Rhinos. Leeds are always talked about in the off-season. There's a big expectation, and then people are quick to make an opinion. So what have you seen? And certainly, what have you seen turn around to the positive in 2025, assuming that you've seen a positive?
Yeah, I've seen plenty of positives. I think the physicality is raised very, very high, and I think I've been in the meeting this morning with Brad Arthur and Jamie Langley, and they encourage that. They want the physicality to be high, and you've got to be physical in this game, and you've got to be at your best in terms of that, and they've got a high expectation of that. That's one that stands out for me. I think when we played Salford and Leeds back at the AJ Bell, we were in a situation where we hadn't played for quite a while, so Leeds came in, but I just feel like they were just full of energy. They were strong in how they carried the ball, and I watched the last few games over the last few weeks, and look, when they played, I think they're beating themselves. I think when they've lost the games, it's through what they've done rather than the opposition. I think that's a positive, because if we're able to control them situations a little bit better, and they know as well, I think the group know as well that the physicality that they bring, how they carry the ball, that's the base. That's the base for them. That's the foundation for them. And then you can bring in your Jake Connors, your Lockie Miller, and plenty of other guys. Harry Newman, when he gets on the ball, he can cause some problems. So they've got a really strong side. And then obviously my mate Brody and Acker's in there as well.
Yeah,
so when they come back obviously from injury, it would be great to play with them as well. So look, it's looking positive. It's really positive for the club. It's just, again, you've got to find that consistency now, and I think you gather quite a lot of information from where your team's at over the first 5-6 rounds, and then you can build then in little blocks each time, and then work from there. But I think you can see the difference in what Brad's brought to the team. So yeah, it's exciting.
That consistency you talk about, I think, comes when you get over the hump of that roller coaster. It feels like it's almost balanced, and you can just feel the weight tipping. But the realisation, actually, and what you're saying, if I've heard you correctly, is that when things are in your control, whilst it might not be quite going right, you're only a few weeks maybe from getting it right. Once it goes over that precipice, boom, the momentum, the hamster wheel just keeps spinning.
Yeah.
You become a very hard machine to slow down. I love listening to you talking about Brad Arthur, Jamie Langley in the meeting room there. Last time he was in there, it might have been opposite way around. I know they've flipped it round, haven't they? It's facing the other way, the screen.
Yeah, it is facing the other way, yeah.
But I was in there a couple of weeks ago listening to Chef deliver some bits to our academy, and I loved it. I love being around young guys. Just raw, want to get at it, and it took me back. I could feel my heart racing watching review, because it took me back to being a player and really excited. But what has Brad Arthur said to you? How's that? I know it's only early days, but him and Jamie Langley, how have you forged a bit of a connection relationship with them thus far?
Yeah, it's been good. I think obviously I spoke to Brad a little bit over the last few days, but the big thing for me was kind of his compassion for everything that's been going on at the minute. So, obviously we spoke a little bit, but we didn't go into detail of obviously how he wants me to play or anything like that. He just wanted to kind of get me involved with the group today, and obviously the captain's run, so kind of get a balance on what they do, and get an idea of like the meetings and stuff, and just get an idea of what people train in different ways and set things in schedules in different ways. So kind of get used to being a part of the group as well, which is good. But then it's just, I'm looking forward to working with Brad, and he's enthusiastic, and he's very, very passionate, and that's what I like about a coach, and he wants the best out of his players, and he'll hold people accountable. You can tell by that, by the way he works, and I think the players have responded to that. I think through the pre-season, and when he came in quite early last year. So I'm looking forward to working with him, and obviously Jamie Langley as well. I've seen him quite a bit because he worked at Sale Shark. So I've seen him a couple of times. I had a couple of little chats with him here and there. So it's good to see him here. Obviously he did well there, and obviously been given an opportunity here at Leeds as well. So I'm looking forward to working with him. He was a top player in his day as well. So I've got a lot of respect for him, and looking forward to working with him as well.
Mate, it's mad that. Did you have much to do with Sale Sharks? Because there's a fair few rugby league people there, isn't there?
Yeah, there's Paul Deacon there. Paul Deacon's there. So a lot of their time they would do captain's run at the stadium. So they've got their own training facility. They've got Man City's old training ground. They train there, but a lot of the time when they're doing captain's run, they'll pop by. They've got quite a lot of players. The rugby union teams, they've got quite a lot of players, like 50 players or something like that. They see loads of players walking in and out the ground. But we've seen them a couple of times, and obviously Langers was there at one point, and yeah. But also I was saying Grixie as well. Obviously we play against Grixie. While I was at Huddersfield, I played him quite a bit, and looking forward to learning off him as well. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes from there. It's
going to be awesome, mate. It's going to be awesome. Great to have you back. Just the Salford bit, I've been confused. Like, is Mummy Shark? Have you ever met Michelle Orange?
Yeah.
sister-in-law of Jason Orange from Take That.
Yeah.
The billionaires, right? And they own Sell Sharks. And yeah, you just don't know how it doesn't cross-pollinate. You mentioned regrets, the last point in the LinkedIn post, having no regrets. And that's brilliant, because if we could do the old grandfather paradox and go back and change something from the past, we wouldn't be the person we are today. So we're probably best not going back too far, unless we can maybe help somebody else. Let's not go too deep, but if you could go back to a 20-year-old Kallum Watkins, give yourself a word of advice, what would it be?
Control what you can control.
Yes.
There's been times, especially in my life, it's been very, very difficult. Made some good decisions, made some bad decisions. But learning from that is how you respond to that. I feel if you can control what you control, it sets you on a good path. And for me, it's just about enjoying and embracing each challenge that gets thrown at you. Because it's not always simple. It's not always great. It's going to be a situation where you're going to have to make a tough decision. You're going to have to be put through uncomfortable situations, but if you step out the other side, push forward, it sets you a very long way. There's no doubt about that. So, yeah, that's probably what I'd say. Enjoy it.
Love it. Love the chaos. Enjoy the chaos. Embrace the discomfort. So tell me then, lastly, what does success look like for Kallum Watkins? Let's not put too much pressure on talking about results and outcomes for a team or a brand, but for Kallum Watkins, what does success look like in 2025?
Just again, obviously with the situation that's been going on, you kind of keep your head away from the rugby side of it. And for me, it's about getting back to that and getting back to playing and not thinking about what's going on behind the scenes. So for me, it's just about getting amongst the boys, get to know the lads as much as possible. Obviously, I know quite a few of them already. Yeah, you reacquaint with them, and then just lead as best as I can with my actions and help this team get better and better. And the expectation is to win things. So I've come here to win. I've told them.
And to lead as well. I always think there's people who are older and more lived than we are that we can learn from. Those who we walk the journey with, and then those who we can pass on some of that example to as a role model. Have you seen any young blokes at the Rhinos? Are you looking forward to getting involved with perhaps some of the youth coming through, having been a part of it yourself? And I know maybe in 2026 or maybe beyond, I don't want to make any assumptions, but at some point, is it something you want to do? Coach, mentor, teach?
Yeah, definitely. I think the big thing for me, I've been thinking about for a while, is kind of a purpose, especially when I finish playing. And I do want to help. I do want to help these young kids. There's no doubt about that. And I think being a mentor is probably something that I'll aim towards. Not sure about the coaching side. I'll probably look into that. Yeah, definitely, because I feel like I've got quite a lot of knowledge with that and in certain positions and being able to deal with adversity and all that stuff. And but I'd love to be involved in terms of that. But I think someone that's probably been a good example, especially as a young kid coming through, and now he's getting a good run of games now, is Riley Lum. So yeah, I'm looking forward to working with him, and he's a good young kid. So he's a prime example of that. And I think quite strange working with Jack Sinfield. I think working with him and obviously play with Kev and his dad. And at first when I spoke to him, it's very, very strange. This is very, very strange.
It is, isn't it?
We both said it. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to working with him. And didn't think that would ever happen.
And perhaps Joe Diskin as well.
Exactly, yeah, Joe Diskin. Yeah, it's I spoke to Disco quite a few months ago. I remember seeing him a few months ago. He mentioned his son was obviously playing and doing really well. So
it's going really well.
Yeah, it's going really well. So which is great. And also, your youngest played Stanley.
Dax.
Yeah. My oldest has played against him last year. I remember he played him last year, but they're in the same league.
Oh, Ben, my youngest young Ben. Yeah.
So looking forward to seeing him play against each other against my son. So things happen pretty crazy, pretty quickly. So just things like that. It's good to catch up with everybody, and it'd be nice to see everybody over the next few weeks and stuff. And obviously, get back playing, put the shirt on, and do the club proud as I always tried to do.
I love the perpetuity, mate. The next generation is coming. And, mate, I know you're probably getting a bit older, feeling a bit older. That airline is still 10 out of 10. Mate, mine went a long time ago. I wish I had anything like that. That is amazing. Callum, it's awesome to have you back. I hope this isn't the first of, well, certainly not the last interview, certainly box 2 we're going to have with you. I'm looking forward to seeing how it might develop over the next 12 months. Thanks, as always, for joining us in box 2. Can't wait to see you next time. Take care.
See you guys.